my name is Jesse Shearer. My kidneys failed about 3 years ago and it's taken this long for my health to stabilize. Now I'm ready to ask for the help I need to go forward with a kidney transplant. I've always been very independent and stubborn, but now I truly need help. Living with a chronic disease is incredibly expensive, and I'm desperately hoping for your support. This all started when I was 10 years old and caught a bad case of E. coli. I was in the hospital for quite a while and the infection wreaked havoc on my body. Eventually I got better, but there were long-lasting effects. Namely, scar tissue formed in my kidneys and it spread throughout my life. I grew up a normal kid in a loving family, running wild on the farm in South Georgia. Eventually, I went away to college, where I read some great books and met some great people. I also got some great advice from my grandmother. She told me not to wait until you're old to go exploring, because by the time that you're old, you won't be able to enjoy it nearly as much. Now I'm glad I listened to her. After college, I decided that I wanted to work on public lands. I wanted to live and work in beautiful places. As a liberal arts student, I found myself deeply unqualified to get this sort of job. So I started small, as a volunteer with AmeriCorps building trails. I moved on into a few internships with the National Park Service. I led volunteer groups working to preserve some of the crown jewels of the country. This time was amazing for me, and I found that I really enjoy exploring and learning about these places, and then being able to share that knowledge with others. However, the course of my career was cut short in the fall of 2013. We had a death in the family and I rushed home. I was never able to return to work because that winter my kidneys failed catastrophically. Kidney disease is progressive. There are no effects at first, but then comes increasing pain and a terrible itching. As the poisons build up in your system, you begin to have awful and continuous muscle cramps and heart tremors. All the electrics in your large muscles go haywire, and it feels like you're being constantly electrocuted. At this point, I finally went to the doctor. He rushed me to surgery to have a catheter put into my chest to begin emergency hemodialysis. The doctors and nurses were amazed that I was still alive, much less that I had driven myself over. It took several months to stabilize me and bring me back from imminent death. Hemodialysis is one of the worst experiences of my life. All of your blood is drawn out of you through a tube, run through a filtering machine, and then driven back into you at a slightly different temperature. This takes about 4 hours and must be done several times a week. That is your life, and it just barely is life. Some people, I'm told, get used to it. I just prayed to get it over with. Eventually, I was strong enough to go on to peritoneal dialysis. This is where a catheter is inserted into your abdomen, and you're filled with as much fluid as you can hold. The poisons are drawn into this fluid, and then it's drained out. In my case, I'm hooked to a machine every night that does this for about 11 hours at a time. It's terrifically uncomfortable and allows for very little sleep. Though peritoneal dialysis is vastly better than hemodialysis, many of the symptoms of kidney disease, including cramping, pain, and nausea, are still daily struggles. So, for the past several years, I've been living with my parents while I fight daily with this disease. Without the full-time support of family and friends, I never would have made it this far. I need a kidney transplant in order to live, not just to have an approximation of the life I want, but just to live. Eventually, dialysis simply will not work anymore, and the longer I'm on dialysis, the less viable a candidate for transplant I will be. But even a new kidney is not enough. Transplant is just another, though very effective, treatment. Kidney disease is a chronic illness with chronic bills. I've always hated to ask for help, but without your support, I just can't afford the life I need. I thank you all so much for any help that you can offer.